guys! We are going to be making a collage today, which is art that uses cut and glued paper. So, to start, you're going to need, of course, scissors and glue. You're going to need a piece of paper, ideally thick if you have it, or cardboard or even regular paper that you can glue on top of. If you have cardstock or construction paper, you'll need the following colors. You'll need blue, red, 2 shades of green, and some white and some black. But that's going to be very small, the white and black. So you can probably just use scraps. If you don't have those supplies, I did ask your teachers to tell you in advance that we would need those colors. So maybe, like me, you've painted them. So I've got my red. I only need half the page. I've got different shades of green. I have 3 here. 2 works as well. And then I've got my blue. And I'll be using some scraps for black and white. So, oh, and I've got my plane. I will be using bottled glue because I prefer it, but a lot of kids prefer glue sticks. So go ahead and use that. And I've got my scissors. Now, we're going to be creating a collage of a macaw. I'll actually show you a finished one. A macaw flying over the jungle, the rainforest. So the first thing we're going to be doing is cutting up our green paper and covering the entire white page in green paper. Different size cuts, all right? And if you painted your paper, you might notice the paint tries to flake depending on the type of paint you got. That's okay. Also notice that I'm not being very specific about my shapes. Some are going to be big and round, some are going to be little and squarish, some are going to be, variation is going to make your project look better. So, I've got a bunch so far. I'm going to finish cutting until I have all of my, almost all of my green paper cut out. You're actually going to want to save about 1/4 of it. So I'm going to do that right now. Cut out my 1/4 that I'm going to save. Again, it's not perfect, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be. I'm going to take this big piece and set it aside because I will need it later. And ideally, that should be your brighter green if you have different shades of green. So, still got a little bit of cutting to do, so I'm going to pause while I finish cutting. Once you've finished cutting, it's just a matter of gluing your green pieces down, and you'll want to overlap them. If you've got painted paper, this is going to be awesome because whenever you overlap it, the direction that you painted is going to change, and that's going to make our collage look really, really cool. If you painted your paper, don't feel bad because honestly, some of the most famous collage artists around, like Matisse, they used painted paper to achieve the effects they want. So, I am now going to start gluing my paper down. Again, I'm going to pause so that I can show you what this is going to look like afterwards. So you should pause your video too. Today you might only get through gluing down the green, and that's okay. I will see you soon with my green background. Okay, I have my green paper glued down. You'll see there are some white spots because I do have one more. Okay, well, I'll cover up one of these white spots, but there's still going to be some white spots, and that's okay. If you haven't done yours yet, here's a suggestion, 2 suggestions. Number 1, if our bird is going to go pretty much in the middle of the page. So if you're going to leave some white spots, leave them in the middle. And secondly, as you cut your paper, you're of course going to have some sharp edges like this. Those work perfectly on the sharp edges of the paper you're gluing down. You're going to be a lot happier with your project if you line up flat edge to flat edge. And that's what I've done here. All of these flat edges along the edges Those are put in because I cut them like that. Okay, now we're going to start our bird. So if you feel like you need to take a pause and come back next time, go ahead, pause. I'll be right here. We're going to be using our blue paper. The first thing you're going to do with the blue paper is draw a big letter Y. Now I'm going to be drawing on the back so that I can, when I cut it out, the lines won't show. If you're going to do that, it does take a little bit more thinking because you have to flip all of your pieces upside down, but it is totally doable and totally an option. So I'm going to make a letter Y that takes up about the full page. I'm going to turn it, and this is going to be upside down to me, but right side up to you. Now notice that my Y focuses on being spread out. This is not this type of Y. Excuse me, it's not this type of Y. It's more like this type. It's this big section that we're spreading out right here is going to be our bird's wings. So I actually want mine to be bigger than this. Yeah, I like that better. This is another reason why I'm using the back, because I can do these things like make revisions and it's not going to hurt my project. Okay. Alright, so here's my letter Y. That's going to be my bird's wings and tail. So now I'm going to get my scissors and cut out along those. And I'll show you the pretty blue side while I cut. I'm cutting along the lines that I drew. And I will finish that in one moment. Okay, so now I've cut my Y out. Yay! And this Y is again going to be my bird. In an ideal world, maybe it would have been a little bit more spread, but I think this will still be really cool. So, next thing that we're going to cut is we're going to use our Y to trace the shapes that we need on our red. Now again, colored side goes on colored side, so as I trace, I'm going to flip it over on the back for both of these sides. Okay? So the red shape is we're gonna have two shapes that we're doing here. It's gonna be, I'll show you on our finished, the head and top of the wings as well as the middle of the tail. So to accomplish that, I'm going to flip over my blue and put it in place of my red. Now the blue, I'm going to have my reference so I can see it actually. The blue is going to show us where the top of our red needs to be. The top of this part, this part lines up exactly red on top of the blue. So that's why that's there, and that's why we're using this to trace. I'm pulling, do you see how I'm pulling my Y almost all the way down to the bottom of the red? That's on purpose, because we don't need that much of it. Actually, a little bit more is probably better. Yeah. Okay, about like this. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the middle of my Y. As I trace, I'm not going all the way to the edges. I'm stopping before I get to the edges. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and pull it away. And I'm going to use this line to draw a, I don't know what you would call this shape. Glasses? A V? A W? Something. This shape. Pause if you need to. And I'm going to come right in between that to make a big bird-shaped head. And I want to go higher than that. Big bird-shaped head. Okay? That's the shape I'm going with. And then I just want to use, I'm going to come off of the blue, so I'm going to come over here and just to get a good idea of the size that I want. Okay, I want it from here to about the bottom of the red, and I'm going to make an oval. A nice, tall oval. And that's going to be a feather. Okay. Now I'm going to cut these out, so I'm going to pause so I can cut. And now I have my, my red pieces. Okay? And it's okay if, you know, because it's painted paper, there's going to be mistakes. And that's just fine. So I am not going to glue these down yet. I will be doing that soon, but I do want to test. So I'm going to line them up the way it's supposed to line up. Scooch, 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 scooch. Okay. And do you see how that's looking? This, you know what? I will put it white to the white since I made a mistake on both of them. They're going to work together. Okay, so it's looking pretty good so far. Next, we're going to add our green. So, going to get that page that we left out, and we're going to be using our red to measure this one. So again, flip over, and this part of the bird, this is the green that's in the middle of the macaw's wings. So I've got these out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace. Can I turn it? Okay. I'm going to trace just the sides. I'll show ya. Okay. Traced right there and right there. So if I were to move this, it looks like that. And I can go ahead and move it because now I'm going to draw the feathers. So watch me do that. Honestly, if you want, you can do one side, move it, do the other side. I'm showing you this way because I think it's a little easier. And I'm going to make these big feathers. Now remember, you're going to be cutting this paper, so don't make yourself crazy by doing, you know, very long and thin and neat feathers like that. No, you're not going to cut that. Be realistic. So, if you have the patience, the fortitude, the scissor skills to do those fine little lines, go ahead. But I'm being realistic for myself. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and pause while I cut those out. So you pause as well so that you are staying on top of things. Okay. So I've got my 2 green pieces. Woo! And this is where you want to check before you do anything else. We want to check to make sure we did it right. So I'm going to get my red piece. And if I did it right, these wings should hook in right underneath. Oh, and it looks like I did do it right. Yay, I did. Okay. So, now, 2 things. Number 1, if you're like me, you have a big green scrap. And if you're like me, you have some white sections. So, now is a great time to fill up any white spots that you have. I'm going to, because I don't want to have white spots in my jungle. So I'm going to cut this up into little scraps that I can use to glue over my current white spots. But I'm going to do that while I'm paused, so you don't need to worry about that. The next thing you do need to worry about, though, if you want to pause and cover the white spots, you can. We're going to start putting our bird together. Before we do, I want to give him wings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feathers on the wings. I'm going to come in and cut these notches. So see, I cut into the paper, and I'm turning my scissors, and I'm cutting a notch. And this notch right there, see how it's like a triangle shape? When I pop it out, it's going to start giving us a feather effect. So I'm going to do that every about ½ inch. And try not to make them too thick like my middle one. I think that's a little too thick. Ran out of recording tape, so I'm going to continue this in another video. but finish doing those feather edges all the way around the edges of both sides. See you soon.